was this one time I was at my locker, and I was wearing, I usually wear mostly black, and I was wearing these shoes, and they're very pointy, as you could probably see. And so this guy came up to me and asked me, he was like, I don't mean to be rude or anything, he was like, but like, where do you buy your clothes? And I just got really serious, and I just got this like starry-eyed expression on my face, like, they're from hell.
For the most part, the biological changes of puberty are something you can see. They transform children by giving them adult size, shape, and sexuality. But another change that begins in adolescence is just as important. It's one you can't see, the maturation that changes the thinking, the cognitive capacities of young people. In this program, we're going to examine the development of adolescent thinking, the way teenagers seem to discover a brand new room. In their minds, it's a room with a view to past, present, and future, a room of ideals, a room of possible selves. Entering this room has a profound effect not only on kids with school smarts, but also on kids with street smarts. Getting around in this room can be dangerous at first, but once the risk has passed, older teens are in a position to make their first statement of who they are, to attempt the first draft of their life story. It all comes about because a new way of thinking makes all things possible. One way of demonstrating the transition from the child's way of thinking to the adolescent's is by adapting an experiment originally designed by psychologists Daniel Osherson and Ellen Markman. All you need are some small items of different colors, poker chips maybe, or M&M candy. I'm going to do something to these M&Ms, and then I'm going to say something, and you tell me whether what I say is true or false, or you can't tell.
Okay.
Mark is 11. I'm going to put a yellow M&M in my hand and show it to him. Here's my hand. I'm going to take this one and put it in my hand. The M&M in my hand is yellow.
Right.
I'll do the same with a brown M&M. Let me do another one. Take this one, put it in my hand. The M&M in my hand is green.
Nope. Wrong.
So far, easy. And it'll stay that way for one more question. This time, Mark won't see the M&M. I'm going to do something else. This time you close your eyes. I'm going to put one in my hand. Open your eyes. My hand is closed. Is what I say true, false, or can't you tell? The M&M in my hand is brown.
I don't know.
Okay, want to see?
You don't show me.
Want to see?
Show me and I'll know.
Because Mark can't see the M&M, he can't tell what color it is. He answered all three questions correctly, but they were only preliminary questions. Now the experiment begins in earnest. Mark won't be able to see the M&Ms any more than you can. Close your eyes.
Okay.
M&M goes in my hand. Your eyes go open.
Uh-huh.
My hand is closed. Is what I say true, false, or can't you tell? The M&M in my hand is yellow, and it is not yellow.
I don't know.
Okay. Why?
Because I can't see it.
All right, let's try another one. Close your eyes. M&M in my hand is closed. You open up. Is what I say true, false, or can't you tell? Either the M&M in my hand is brown, or it is not brown.
Don't know.
Mark can't see the M&M, so he believes he can't tell whether my statements are true or false. For him, the key is the closed hand, visible, concrete evidence. Now listen to Becca, who's also 11. My hand is closed. Now listen, and tell me whether what I say is true, false, or you can't tell. The M&M in my hand is yellow, and it is not yellow.
That's false. It can't be yellow and not yellow at the same time unless you have two in your hand.
Becca focuses not on what she sees, but on what I say. Not on the closed hand, but on the statement. In this particular case, she's moved beyond the concrete, beyond what's visible. And what has she found there? Listen to Daniel, who's also 11. Close your eyes, please. It's in my hand. My hand is closed. You can open up. Is what I say true, false, or can't you tell? The M&M in my hand is brown, or it is not brown.
That is true.
Why?
Because if it's brown or it's not brown, it means it could be, but it doesn't have to be. It may be brown, but it could be green if you wanted it to. It could be anything.
It could be green if you want it. It could be anything. What Daniel has found beyond the concrete is the world of it could be, the world of possibility. It's a kind of thinking that Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget called formal operations. What Piaget meant by formal operations, or formal thought as it's sometimes called, is the ability to think logically in the abstract. David Elkind, professor of child study, is an expert on Piaget. He comments on the transition from the concrete thought of children to the formal thought of adolescence.
Well, I think the primary difference is that in formal thought, young people can deal with possibilities. The child is dealing with the here and now, the concrete world of here and now, but the adolescent deals with possibilities, with the future, with the past, with possible worlds, with possible events, with possible things, and it's the new capacity to deal with possibilities and probabilities which marks the differentiates the adolescent thinking from the child thinking. They can deal with ideals, things that don't actually exist. They can think of ideal worlds and ideal peoples. That's one of the reasons that adolescents have crushes. They can imagine an ideal person of the opposite sex.
Captain of the football team, of course. He's real tall, and he's going with the cheerleader, and he's real tall, and he's real cute, and he's like sandy brown hair and nice eyes, and he's like real polite and say hi ladies in the hall, and he's real nice to everybody.
Interestingly, now the teenager can now think about ideal parents, and then he or she compares the ideal parents, which often seem to resemble the parents of friends, to their own parents, and they find their own parents wanting, whereas they are very adoring and often very respectful in childhood. Suddenly, almost overnight, it seems to the parents, they suddenly become very critical.
What is it about your dad that drives you absolutely crazy?
His mouth. He talks too much. He just says a lot, and he won't stop. He'll just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, and he just won't be quiet.
If parents aren't perfect, neither is society. Adolescents can envision ideal worlds and want to change the one they're in.
They're troubled by the fact that if one can imagine a world without war, or imagine a world without hunger, or a world without disease, why can't we have it? And their involvement in issues and so on of this sort, the political activism and so on, stems from this new idealism, which is not yet tempered, unfortunately, by experience, which says that ideals simply cannot be realized immediately, but have to be worked towards.
An ideal person to love, ideal parents, an ideal society. In adolescence, we discover the world of ideals and possibility that Piaget called formal thought. We also discover how bad reality looks in comparison. The new room of possibility has its dangers, especially before you get used to all that's there. What might other kids possibly be thinking about me? In their early teens, adolescents become intensely concerned with that question, and hence with how they look. Professor Elkind.
One of the things that happens is that because they're so concerned in early adolescence with their own bodies, their own appearance, their new emotions and so on, they get so concerned with those things, and they can now, thanks to their new abilities, think about other people's thinking, but they make a characteristic error, which is comes from this awkwardness, which is to assume that other people are thinking about what they're thinking about, namely themselves, and they create what I call an imaginary audience.
Everyone is looking at me. That's the imaginary audience. All those people looking at what I'm wearing.
Oh, jeez. Especially with me, because I'm in the styles and fashions and all that. If you have the Kmart jeans, that's no good. People want you to have Levi's and Lee's and Calvin Klein's and Guess. And no Pro Wings. No Pro Wings. You got Fila's and Adidas and all that kind of stuff. And my dad's like, well, it's all gym shoes. It's all gym shoes. But you go to school and you feel terrible. And then you spend too much time worrying about what you got on and stuff. You don't worry about what you're there for.
And what if you had to wear an embarrassing shirt, ridiculous pants, or those sorry old gym shoes?
I wouldn't go to school. I wouldn't go to school. He'd drop me off and I'd run away. I couldn't go to school. I wouldn't go to school. It just wouldn't happen. I couldn't do it. I'd just be gone. He'd drop me off and I'd be down the corner.
The power of the imaginary audience extends far and wide. It feeds into the first story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Elkind calls it the personal fable.
If everybody is thinking about you and observing you and watching you, then you must be something special and unique and different. That's what I call the personal fable, this kind of story we tell ourselves, which is really not true, that other people, the teenager tells himself or herself, other people will grow old and die, but not me. Other people won't realize their life's ambitions, not me. And that's a construction that stays with us for the rest of our lives, but is very, very powerful in early adolescence.
I am a hero destined for great things. I am also a hero immune to great dangers. Woven into the personal fable, according to Elkind, are not only feelings of grandeur and uniqueness, but also feelings of invincibility. Many young people take all kinds of risks, falsely secure in the notion that they will never get sick or caught or killed.
If I got someplace to go, I want to get there like that, you know. A speeding ticket, usually, you know, maybe 65 and a 55, but I got an 85 and a 55. So speeding is one thing, but, you know, wearing the treads, you know, ripping paint off other cars because you go by them so fast. And then I got in a wreck, and insurance just keeps on going up the ladder. Pow, pow, pow. Caught. You know, I've had 2 tickets and a warning. One more ticket and I will lose my license. I think my next investment might be a radar detector.
A feeling of invincibility can be a positive force, but it doesn't always work that way.
It enables us to do many things that we ordinarily, we might be frightened of doing otherwise. But in early adolescence, it can also lead to risk-taking when young people are confronted with decisions about drugs or about sex. They may feel that other people get hooked but not me, or other people get pregnant and not me. So it has both positive and negative effects, but it grows out of the early awkwardness of young people in using their new mental abilities.
The first steps into the room of possibility can be treacherous. Elkind has found that the feeling of invincibility peaks around 13 or 14. So does the power of the imaginary audience and the personal fable. By late adolescence, as young people become better able to reason logically, they gradually become more secure, more realistic, and more positive in their understanding of themselves. Unfortunately, many adolescents must make critical decisions affecting their lives before they reach that point.
The summer after 9th grade, at the very beginning, I don't even really remember what was running through my head at the time, just that my goal was I was going to get drunk or high every day, and I just wanted to get some kind of a buzz. Something, you know, something that I had set, and when I came back to school, it was like I wanted to let everybody know, you know, just how cool I was. Like, oh yeah, I got high every day, and da-da-da.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm concerned about the contemporary scene, because I think we're often confronting teenagers with decisions, say, about drugs and about sexual activity at a point when they're most vulnerable to peer group pressure and least able to resist. And so I think we give them a kind of double whammy. We give them difficult decisions just at the time when they're least able to make those decisions on a sound basis.
The new cognitive capacities of teenagers won't show up in better grades or higher IQ scores. What the new room offers them is not more smarts, but different smarts. Smarts that may show up in one domain, but not in another. Maybe in a scientific laboratory, maybe at the racetrack, maybe both. According to Robert Sternberg, professor of psychology and education, there are more kinds of intelligence than merely academic intelligence.
It may be, and in fact often is the case, that the parents' notion of what's smart differs from the teachers. In other words, if you take kids from an inner city ghetto, the parents may have a completely different idea of what it means to be smart from the teachers. And in fact, the parents may be right for the street environment. But when the kids go to school, the very kids that look very smart in that street environment may look very dumb in the school.
Don't underestimate the value of street smarts, says Sternberg.
Many of us know people who might look great on a test of formula operations or might look really terrific on an intelligence test, but seem to be clods in their everyday lives, that they can't make even some of the most fundamental decisions about how to get along.
What they lack, according to Sternberg, is practical intelligence.
Practical intelligence is the ability to adapt to, shape, and select real world or everyday environments. In other words, by adapt, I mean to take an environment and figure out how you can fit into it. By shape an environment, I'm saying that in that case, instead of you're adapting to the environment or you're conforming to that environment, you try to make the environment conform to you. And by selection, I refer to you're choosing another environment that you may decide that, hey, I don't want to adapt to this. It could be a job, say, that I just can't take this job the way it is, and I've tried to shape it into something else, and that hasn't worked, so I guess it's time to find a new job.
According to Sternberg, most of the real everyday problems we face don't have clearly right or wrong answers. It takes judgment to decide whether to adapt, shape, or select. For example, your best friend cheats when the two of you play tennis. She calls any ball out that even comes close to a line. What do?
Ask her what her problem is. Is winning that important to you? It's so obvious the ball is in when you're calling it out. Do you have a problem with this, or you just want to win that bad?
But what if she feels that he's cheating?
Well, I'd probably just get so angry that I wouldn't be playing well anymore anyway, so why not quit?
Okay.
Give them a second chance, but that's it.
Well, there's no one answer to that. If you were to take, for example, you're playing with somebody who cheats, there isn't a right answer as to whether adapt, shape, or select, but rather the person with high practical intelligence would know, say, something about the other person. Is this somebody who, if I talk to him or her, there's a plausible chance that I could get him or her to change? Or is this someone I can talk to and they won't end the friendship right there?
Sternberg believes that the key to practical intelligence is knowing what's important to you and the people around you. This kind of intelligence is evident in the way certain adolescents handle cheating, or deal with parents, or confront the issue of drugs, or try to better society. When practical intelligence is found in the young, it should be nourished.
In school, what's emphasized is academic intelligence, but if you think of the entire lifespan, by far the majority of the hours of your life you're going to spend are going to be out of school. And in fact, it's the academic intelligence that stops being very important after you graduate, say, from college, or for some kids from high school. No one asks high-level executives what their IQ scores were or what their GPAs were, and nobody cares. They care about their practical abilities.
Little is known about the origins of practical intelligence and how it develops over the lifespan, but it does appear that when practical intelligence is added to adolescent idealism, when it tempers the grandiose vision of the personal fable, a young person is ready to find a place in society, ready to say, realistically, this is who I am.
I mean, I started out being really looking much like everyone else, like had the bob and my hair was really curly, it was down to here. And then I got like an undercut. It was like called a wedge then, it was like up to here. And then I cut one side off and then I shaved it off and I had black in my hair. It was like striped black in my natural color. And then it was red, cherry cola red and black. Then it was like fuchsia. Well, like not fuchsia, but just like obnoxious orange and black. I looked like Halloween. It's just like, I mean, I just felt like doing it, and I can't do that when I'm 35. I can't get a job looking like that. So, I mean, why not just do it now?
No longer tied to the concrete, adolescents can look at themselves and say, what if I were different? They can think not only of possible parents, possible mates, and possible societies, but also about possible selves. They become capable of forming what psychoanalyst Erik Erikson called an identity.
I'm a nice guy, trustworthy, honest. I think if any one of my friends that I know, if they had a problem of some kind, I would help them if I could, and I wouldn't, go gabbing it to everybody else. I think I can keep a secret and just think I care.
Professor Dan McAdams believes that identity is expressed through a life story. Because adolescents can now connect past, present, and future, they're able to begin the first draft of their story.
We all do it a little differently, but I think it's at this time in our lives that we begin to think about what we do and what we've done in the past and what we may be doing in the future as all being connected within some grand narrative scheme. And this evolving story, this narrative scheme, this thing that we construct, that we put together with the help of society, with the help of our friends, with the help of our relationships, this evolving story helps us define who we are.
In McAdams' view, the process of creating a life story begins in early adolescence with the fantasies of greatness that David Elkind calls the personal fable.
No one has ever done what I've done. No one's ever seen what I've seen. No one understands me. I'm truly unique. I'm destined for greatness, or perhaps I'm destined for tragedy. But what's going on here is the development of a fairly simple, grandiose, heroic story of the self that's completely unrealistic. But it serves the purpose of identifying in the teenager's mind how he or she is different from everybody else, which is one thing you have to do when you establish an identity. Over time, going into late adolescence, young adulthood, these early fantastical stories of the self become more realistic.
The stories also take on an ideological quality. They are given a background of belief and value.
When you think of a person between the ages of 15 and 19, you're thinking of somebody who in many cases is quite preoccupied with ideology, with coming up with basic answers to fundamental questions about right and wrong, about the relationships among people, about God. And much of identity work takes the form at this point in one's life of getting one's ideology squared away.
When I was a kid, it was and going through Sunday school and into church, you're learning a lot and people are teaching a lot. So it was almost them handing me this, I don't know, you can picture a porcelain figure or something that says, this is what God is. And you kind of look at it and you're thinking, no, that's kind of neat. But you can't feel anything of it. You kind of look at it and you just take it for its face value until you hit a really spiritual experience that would turn your life around in a sense. Then you go back home and I kind of pick up that thing off the shelf and look at it, and then I make my own from that of what God is, and I can hand the other one back.
I believe once that is in place, and generally I think that takes us in through late adolescence into young adulthood, once that's in place, then other parts of the story start to develop.
My first memories that were bad, I had surgery when I was 4 and 5 years old. I just remember going through a lot of the hospitalization, and I remember the doctor, his name was Dr. Tank, and super nice guy. I mean, really nice. Oh, I remember my fear of shots. I just didn't want to go because I didn't know a soul. I was just standing there like, no, I don't want to go on this bus. No, I don't want to go on this bus. My mom just said, go on this bus, go on this bus. And it'll take you to school and you'll be fine. And I remember my mom walking me down the bus stop. And somebody said it was picture day. And I didn't know that. I said, you're kidding me. No, it's tomorrow. And he said, no, it's today. I'm like, just this sinking feeling of, look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing this red thing and it doesn't look good. And I just remember thinking, oh no, it's picture day. We call it the school bus catch. Because there's a school bus coming down the road, and we just ran this play in the back of the end zone. We had end zone lines for the yard, and he caught this one. It was an amazing catch, like one-handed, and he still came in with 2 feet in bounds, and I ran over, I was like, good, touchdown, and the school bus just ran by, and they applauded. Wow, she was very good-looking, and I remember us always, us always talking about her, like, oh, where is she? Have you seen her today? And just little things like that. It was nothing where you realistically you thought, wow, I have a chance with this person to go out with her. But it was just kind of, you look at pictures of her in the yearbook. There was a counselor. I could go to him with any problems I had in school. and I know he would, do his best to take care of it. And I wouldn't just be a piece of paper to him. And he was, he did that for a lot of people. I mean, he was very popular and very nice man. And that I thought a lot of times I always want to do something like that for some other kid, and be that kind of role model. As I keep growing now, the past couple of years, I look back and I realize a lot of things, how things worked when you were younger, and the way you are now, you realize those things, and I feel like it's just more of an inner confidence, identity in yourself, and finding out who you are and where you stand with other people and with yourself.
But even with a sense of confidence, these first statements of identity, these first drafts of the life story, are likely to change. Professor McAdams.
In adolescence, I don't think you have an identity yet. I think you are working on it. I think getting through adolescence and into young adulthood, having made some progress in figuring out what you believe to be true and right and good about the world in general, about God, about religion, about politics even, if you can do that, you're really doing quite well as far as identity is concerned.
The room of possibility that opens at adolescence does have its dangers, but it promises more than it threatens. It promises vision, perspective, ideals, hypothetical futures, and for some, the practical intelligence to achieve them. It promises a self with beginning, middle, and end. In adolescence, we move beyond the concrete and decide on the background of belief and value we call ideology. We make the first definition of who we are, the first statement of our identity. And for the first time, we try to assemble stories from our life into the story of our life, a story at this stage where all things are possible.
It's a way of expressing myself, like just expressing this side of myself. It's just, I'm a human being and this is what I look like inside.